Greetings and welcome to the Way of Truth. In Hebrew, we say Derek ha-emet. In Greek, we say He hodos tes aletes. In Latin, we say Via Veritatis. Let's explore the thought. Follow, like, share, and subscribe. The Way of Truth. Today's lecture is really more of a video commentary on the War of the Gods. This is a video commentary that is focused on 2 Kings chapter 3 verse 27. The reason I decided to respond to a video commentary is precisely because I was watching a video from one of our friends from ear to here. And in that video, the gentleman, great guy, very knowledgeable, expressed certain, he was doing fine up until a point regarding the 2 Kings chapter 3 verse 27, and his explanation there I found to be entirely erroneous. For the most part, his videos are very detailed, very well suited for beginners in, biblical, Christians who are new to their working faith. And however, I more specialize on the advanced level, those who are more on the advanced side of their walk in faith. The path on spiritual illumination, the taught or the way of truth, where we provide the real answers to, for example, questions surrounding the 2 Kings chapter 3 verse 27. The earth, unlike what many believe, is fully controlled by non-human intelligences. Notice, I did not use the term such as spiritual entities, demons, or any terms that promote and promulgate the deception and keeps humanity in ignorance. These beings are real, and their effects and control over humanity is very real. So I'm going to now play the video. I may pause the video to comment. However, my goal is to just let the video play. The actually full video is 30 minutes long. However, I've taken about a 2-minute or so long excerpt that's focused specifically on the 2 Kings chapter 3 27 piece of that video, which we are going to be diving more in-depth explanation regarding that very specific verse of 2 Kings chapter 3. So I'll play the video and I'll try to let it play to the very end before commenting, but I may pause it here and there to comment or to explain if I think it's pertinent. So I will now play the video.
In Judah. But now the kingdom of Israel had another problem on their hands. During Ahab's reign over the northern kingdom, the king of Moab paid tribute to Israel. But when Ahab died, Moab stopped paying. So Ahab's son Joram gathered his troops, came down to Jerusalem, asked King Jehoshaphat to join him, and the two armies traveled down to the region of Edom to attack Moab. Even the Edomites joined forces with King Joram. But God gave Israel a promise that he will deliver the Moabites into Israel's hand. But then something really dark happens. Israel, Judah, and Edom start to win the battle just like God said. So the king of Moab takes his eldest son and offers him as a burnt offering on the wall of the Moabite kingdom. But then the Bible says these confusing words. There was great indignation against Israel. So Israel departed from him and returned to their own land. Wait, but I thought God promised to deliver the Moabites to them. So I'm actually looking at the passage right now, and in the past, a passage like this would seem like a contradiction, and I would just be super confused. I'd have to go open up a bunch of different commentaries to try to figure it out. But I'm going to show you guys what I do now when I come across a verse that's hard to understand. I'm going to open up this app that I created called Scripturally, look up the verse, and then find it. And then all I have to do is simply tap on it, and it's going to instantly give me some explanation. So it looks like what happened was when the king sacrificed his son, that Israel was so disgusted and angry that it made them leave. But this still doesn't fully answer my question. So what I'm going to do is dive a little bit deeper. And that's the great thing about Scripturally is if the instant explanation you get doesn't fully answer your question, you can ask it another question. So the first thing I'm going to do is ask about the word indignation in the original language. What I like about this is it's not going to give me some complex answer about the Hebrew language. It's just going to get right to the point. And it looks like it has to do with wrath or anger in the original language. So now I'm going to dig a little bit deeper with a few more questions, and I think we'll have an answer at the end. Wow, so basically what it's saying is that God pretty much laid out the red carpet for them. They were completely winning the battle, but it was their own choice to basically leave God's promise on the table. So it's not that God went back on his promise or that he didn't deliver the Moabites into their hands. It's just that after God handed the Moabites over to Israel and Judah, basically on a silver platter, they just decided to walk away.
So, shout out to the young man, to the video content creator, Ear to Hear. I will include the link to the video. It's a 30-minute long video. Feel free to watch it in detail. That's Ear to Hear. Shout out to him. However, the answers he provided to 2 Kings chapter 3:27 is entirely erroneous. It is part of the classic interpretative tradition where God is never wrong, his promise is ever sure, and if there's ever any problem with the plan, blame human beings. Human beings are always at fault, and it's never, we never really look any deep into the story to really ask the question. And I like the way he thinks, because he started out correctly, because he said, this does not make sense. God in verse 18 promised that he will secure victory for Israel and encourage them to go forward to this war. Anytime, I'm a soldier, I'm served in the military, so I understand a little bit about war. War is not a decision that is made lightly. So when any nation decides to go to war, you're making a calculation that some of your citizens are also going to die. It's a costly venture. It's not something that's done lightly. And Yahweh reassured the nation of Israel that go forward with this war. I will help you secure victory, including water for their animals, and that, the weapons that they'll use at war. He said he'll provide and ensure that they win victory against the Moabites. You will see that in verse 18. And I like how he started, because it doesn't make sense, because Israel, during this war effort, they completely have total victory. They were about to completely run over the nation of Moabite. And then all of a sudden, something happened. And now Israel is all of a sudden in retreat. Now, he came close. He came close. But we're going to address this topic. What is missing in all of these classic traditional interpretation is truly understanding what is God. What is it that we call God? Who is God? Why many of these traditional explanations and biblical interpretations fail is because of wrong assumption of who and what these beings who control humanity's destiny are. We address this topic in a series we call the Divine Council and Divine Rulers. There's also a topic called the Elohim. Who are they? Feel free to watch those videos as we upload them to the site. It's not uploaded to the site just yet. We are timing their release, so as not to overwhelm some of our audience. But look out for those videos. We will be dropping them at the correct timing. So let's now look at the biblical verse in detail. I am now going to go over the biblical reference. Deuteronomy. Let's start with Deuteronomy 32:8. The reason why we want to start here is because as part of our lecture series, we actually go over in trying to explain the identity of these beings and what they are exactly. What is the governance structure that is has been designed for the earth, and how things operate, whether in the divine realm or in the physical realm. So let's look at Deuteronomy 32:8, and it reads in verse 8. It says, "When the Most High gave to the nations their inheritance." Who is the Most High? The Most High is El Elyon. When he divided mankind, he fixed the borders of the people according to the number of the sons of God. This word, sons of God, is Bene Elohim. Bene Elohim. It means sons of God. But the Lord's portion, the Lord typically, when you see this word in scripture, is referring to Yahweh. But the Lord's portion is his people, Jacob, his allotted inheritance. So notice how Jacob is given to Yahweh as his portion, which means that other Bene Elohim, or sons of God, received other peoples, lands, and nations as their inheritance. And this is no surprise because, for example, as Israel was given to Yahweh, for example, Jerusalem was given to Melchizedek. And Moab was given to Chemosh, as we see in this story. The Bene Elohim who received Moab as his inheritance is called Chemosh, and he is a rival of Yahweh. The Ammon was given to Milcom. The Philistines was given to Dagon. Babylon was given to Marduk. Assyria was given to Ashur. So you can see, and I provided a table of all of this so you can see them very clearly, that the earth, and the Bible focused more on the enemies of Yahweh, because the Bible is more focused more on Israel and all of the things that impact Israel as a nation. And of course, by extension, there is a more focus on Yahweh, who is the national God of Israel. And therefore, a lot of the stories seem to focus more on things that concern Israel and Yahweh. So these gods that I mentioned are gods who are rivals of Yahweh, who are in competition with Yahweh, and who Yahweh has very vested interest to subdue those gods and the land and peoples that these gods control. So the original reading of the Deuteronomy, when you go to the original ancient texts, reveal something far more ancient, that a cosmic administration is in place, which was established by the Most High, or El Elyon, who is the Father, the owner of the earth and the heavens, that he has a cosmic administration in which nations are governed by his sons or divine beings he specifically appointed. And these divine beings control various peoples, lands, and nations throughout the earth. Other biblical references that support this idea is, for example, Psalms 24:1. The earth is the Lord's, and the fullness thereof, the world and those who dwell therein. You can see Daniel 2:21. He changes times and seasons. He removes kings and sets up kings. Daniel 4:17. The Most High rules the kingdom of men and gives it to whom he will. Proverbs 21:1. The king's heart is a stream of water in the hand of the Lord. He turns it wherever he will. Ezra 1:1. The Lord stirs up the spirit of Cyrus, king of Persia. And Ephesians 6:1. Ephesians chapter 6:12. We do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against rulers, authorities, cosmic powers, spiritual forces in the heavenly places. The earth, unlike what most believers understand, most Christians in their understanding of Scripture, do not always come to the forefront. They do not always understand that the earth is fully controlled by non-human intelligences. Let me say that again. Most believers, most Christians do not understand that the earth is fully controlled by non-human intelligences. Notice that I did not use the terms such as spiritual entities, demons, or any term that promote and promulgate the deception that keeps humanity in ignorance. These beings are very real. Their effects and control over humanity is very real and present. This is a very important concept. Now, let's look at the tables of the gods as the allotment. This is why I started showcasing to you how the earth was divided up in territories and given to different gods to rule. And as the Bible focuses more on Yahweh and the rivals and enemies of Yahweh, I've listed them here. So these are for example, in the Bible, these are specifically named. So Yahweh, Michael, interchangeable, control Israel or Jacob, which in modern day is the state of Israel. And here are some biblical supporting texts, which we would not focus too much on in this lecture because of time. And then you have the Prince of Persia or the Persian Empire, which is modern day Iran. And Prince of Grecia, the Greek Empire. You have Chemosh, who represents Moab, which I have highlighted here, which is modern day East Jordan, east of the Dead Sea region. And Milcom or Molech, territory given to them is Ammon or modern day Jordan Ammon region. Dogan or Philistia, Gaza, Ashdod, which is modern day Gaza, southern coastal Israel region. And Rimmon is given the territory Aram or Damascus, and that is modern day Syria. And Marduk or Marduk, Baal, Nebo, they are given Babylon, which is modern day Iraq or Mesopotamia. And you have the god Ashur, who is given the territory of Assyria, which is modern day parts of Iraq, Turkey, Syria border regions. This is ancient Assyria Empire. And then, of course, you have Kish or Seir. This is who was given the territory of Edom, which is the south of Jordan and Israel, Elat area. And then, of course, Melchizedek, who is given the region of the god Melchizedek, or Bene Elohim Melchizedek, is given the region of Salem or Jerusalem, which is pre-Israel, prior to the nation of Israel. And this is modern day Israel or Palestine region. And of course, the gods of Egypt, or the pantheon national gods of Egypt, Ra, Ammon, Osiris, Isis, Horus, and of course they are given the territory of Egypt, which is modern day Egypt. I think it's important to point out or to notice how with respect to Egypt, you see more of a pantheon of national gods. This is not unique, by the way. We talk of this in terms of the Bible, but you find pantheon style gods here when we look at some of the extra biblical examples, which we will here shortly. But I wanted to point out more on this pantheon national gods of Egypt with reference to Yahweh, because it explains something Yahweh says to Moses. He says, that he says, expressed to Moses, he says, there is no God beside me. I am the Lord your God. There is no God beside me, which has been interpreted by most preachers, theologians, as Yahweh saying that he is the only God in existence. That is not at all what Yahweh is actually indicating by that word. What Yahweh is actually saying is like, unlike, and this reference was made shortly right after the children of Israel were liberated from Egypt. What Yahweh was actually saying is that unlike the pantheon of Egypt, he works alone, meaning he he is a god who operates alone. He does not have anyone working with him. He's not working in collaboration with other gods. Basically, he's saying, I work alone. Much like a beat cop who says, I have no partners, I work by myself, I do it all by myself. So that is the what Yahweh was trying to convey. He said, I, Yahweh, is the Lord your God, and I work alone. I don't work with any, I have no partners, is really what that translation should be. However, the way it's traditionally translated is, there is no God beside me, with the intention of saying that other Elohims are therefore idols, they are not real, they are false gods, or some other explanations that are sort of twisted up there, indicating that Yahweh is the only true God, and all of the other Bene Elohim are simply not even real. Some of them are just classified as idols. And as we will see in this story of the 2Kings chapter 3:27, other Bene Elohim, such as Chemosh, are not a figment of imagination. They are very real, and their actions are very, very real and impactful, as we shall shortly see in this story. So, as you see in this table, this is just a quick summary of some of the Bene Elohims that received territory from Deuteronomy 32:8 that we just read, who, as we saw, that the high God, who is the true God, the Father, the God that Jesus called Father, called El Elyon, or the Most High, is the one who divided up the earth among his sons. So all of these Bene Elohim are subject to El Elyon. And we saw that very clearly depicted in Psalms 82, where he admonishes the Bene Elohim for poor administration of the earth. But that's a separate lecture we will not go over here. Now let's look at some extra biblical tables of Bene Elohim. As I mentioned, because the Bible was focused more on Israel and Yahweh's enemies, and that's why there is a focus more on the Bene Elohims that are closely tied or in competition with Yahweh. However, when you look extra biblically, for example, even in the Bible alone, you will find that there are at least 18 unique Elohim mentioned in the Bible, and there could be more. And when you look extra biblically, you find that there is even far more, hundreds, maybe even thousands of them. However, some examples, for example, many cultures, many, different nations and peoples report relationship and encounters with these beings. For example, in Norse and Germanic cultures, these very beings, which would be modern day Scandinavia, Germany, and Switzerland, etc., they report these beings, they call these beings the Aesir. And that's, the family of gods that this, again, a good example of a pantheon styled, these beings, Odin, Thor, Heimdall, Loki, Frigga, etc., belong to the Aesir. And they are, in fact, Bene Elohim. However, they are called by a different name because of the culture. And if you look at the Greek Hellenic culture, which modern day Greece, Mediterranean, these beings are called the Olympians. You remember Zeus, For example, Poseidon, etc. In the Roman Italic, which is modern day Italy, in Europe, these beings are called the Deconstantes or Capitoline Triad. Jupiter, etc., comes to mind. And in Sumeria, Ascadia, which is modern day Iraq, they are called the Anunnaki or the Igigi or Igigi. We can go on and on in many different cultures, many different peoples. These beings come by many different names, but we know them in the Bible as the Elohim, which is the main point I wanted to convey. So feel free to look through this video in detail, and you will see the parallels that exist across many different cultures. This is just this list by no means is comprehensive. This is just a little bit of a taste. But as you dive into so many different cultures, you find similar parallels to the Elohim that are named specifically in Scripture. So now let's look at the actual 2 Kings chapter 3. We'll go through the specific verse is 27, but we'll look at 26 as well, just for completion there, just to give us a little context. So we'll start with 26. I always provide three translational versions: the ESV, the NIV, King James. I do like the ESV a lot better because of this. It's closely tied to the Hebrew word, and it's more direct translation and less error compared to the NIV or the King James. So when the king of Moab saw that the battle had gone against him, he took with him 700 swordsmen to break through to the king of Edom, but they failed. Then he took his firstborn son, who was to succeed him as king, and offered him as a sacrifice on the city wall. The fury against Israel was great. They withdrew and returned to their own land. All right, pay attention because we're going to dissect this in detail. There's a couple of problems here. Okay? There's something very important that happened here. Notice that Moab, King Misha, has basically lost the war. His kingdom on the verge of being sacked and plundered by Israel and his ally Judah and Edom. He was desperate and decided to call up on his god, Chemosh. And upon sacrifice or invocation of his god, Chemosh, represented by the sacrifice or burnt offering of his son. This is not unique to Chemosh because other Elohim do the same thing. This is a classic ritual practice by the Elohim. It is a representative tribute or demonstration of ultimate loyalty that the Bene Elohim typically demands of their subjects, their human subjects. We saw with, for example, Yahweh asked Abraham to do the same. Sacrifice your son, Isaac, your only son, to me. And Abraham was on the verge of doing just that when Yahweh changed his mind and stopped Abraham from sacrificing his son Isaac. And he said, now I know that, you've proven your loyalty to me. And in fact, it says in scripture that Abraham was deemed righteous because of this very act. And we also know that burnt offering is classic Elohim tribute, as it is said that the smell of burnt offering, or that the Lord finds the smell of burnt offering very pleasing. So the smell of burnt offering I found to be very pleasing to the Elohim race. So human or animal sacrifice is common and powerful tribute. So particularly human sacrifice can lead to Bene Elohim, direct intervention in human affairs. Let me say that again, folks. I pause for effect, because this is why you see in many different cultures, people talk about voodoo practices, in Africa and so many different places where folks do ritual magic practices where they sacrifice children, family members, you name it. Human sacrifice essentially can lead to direct Bene Elohim intervention in human affairs. This is no joke, folks. Very, very, very serious. The retreat we see here, it says Israel withdrew and returned to their own land, meaning they retreated. The armies of Israel and its allies withdrew, indicating that Chemosh is a very powerful Elohim, perhaps even more powerful than Yahweh, thus forcing a retreat. Remember that Yahweh promised a guaranteed victory to Israel and his allies in 2Kings chapter 3:18 reads, "This is an easy thing in the eyes of the Lord. He will also deliver Moab into your hand." So these armies went into this war with a solemn promise from Yahweh that they would be victorious against the Moabites. However, notice, that promise was not fulfilled. Unlike our friend who told in the video, he said the reason the promise was not fulfilled, he blamed human beings. He blamed the soldiers of Israel. Oh, it's up to them. They saw this horrific human sacrifice and they were so horrified that they couldn't stand and watching human sacrifice. Therefore, they abandoned a war that they have practically won and just went home. Really? Thousands of soldiers show up. Do you know what it takes to mobilize an entire army to go to war? And you think they're just going to go empty-handed and go home? The whole point of mobilizing an entire thousands and thousands of people to go into war is so that they can plunder the nation and take booties, at least have something to be able to replenish the cost associated with warfare. You think that one human sacrifice of watching some human sacrifice is going to cause this entire army to turn away and go home when they have literally slaughtered thousands of Moabites up to this point? That one sacrifice, human sacrifice, is so horrific, they abandon the war effort. It doesn't even make sense. And I applaud the young man in the video. He did recognize it didn't make any sense, because it doesn't. The only reason, folks, that an army of soldiers, battle-hardened soldiers, would abandon victory is because they were forced. There was a greater force that intervened. And that force, we are told here, is Chemosh, the god, the Bene Elohim ruler of the Moabites. Our friend at ear to hear is wrong. I will not mix words here. Battle-hardened soldiers who have been slaughtering thousands of Moabites in cold blood are not going to suddenly be disgusted over human sacrifice, so much so they abandon a hard-fought victory. The only way you do that, only way that happens, is if a powerful force made them flee. Battle-hardened soldiers are not going to be scared off over some human sacrifice. See, this is why some of these simple, standard biblical explanations, it doesn't make sense sometimes. And you know at the back of your mind it doesn't make sense. Israeli soldiers abandoned victory because they had no choice. They flee because a force greater than Yahweh had entered the battle. Full stop. That is the truth here. And I know it's an uncomfortable truth because it opens up a lot of can of worms. So you can understand why the biblical translators are hesitant here and why the word fury against Israel was used. Israel's God is Yahweh. I think we have to give Yahweh credit because if you recall in Deuteronomy chapter 32:8, he was just given a people without land. And he's done incredibly well. He's built up Israel now, starting from Jacob, to a remarkable kingdom, now called Israel and Judah. That is a remarkable success. He's grown these people. However, the growth of Israel came at the expense of Yahweh's rivals, such as Chemosh, who ruled Moabite, Dagon, who ruled Philistia. As you know, Israel battled in the days of David the Philistines, Rimmon, Syria. So these other kingdoms or rivals of Yahweh must be diminished in order to fulfill Yahweh's territorial ambitions to be realized. Someone has to lose, folks. So going back to the story in 2Kings chapter 3:27. And I have to give, once again, the content creator there a lot of credit, ear to hear, because he did a good job. I like the way he tells stories. It's really good. And as I say, I've included the link of his video, so you can go watch the entire 30-minute video. He does a good job. And I also liked how he pointed out, which is critical, multiple instances where Yahweh directly intervenes in battle to aid his people. For example, the victory of Judah king Abijah with just 400 men over Israel's king Jeroboam, who had 500,000 men. Also, victory over the invading Ethiopian king who vastly outnumbered Israel. So These are classic examples that the Bene Elohim rulers can directly intervene in battle to aid their people if they so choose. Because we've seen multiple examples where Yahweh directly engages in war and would make promises to his people. And as we see in this example, he promised Israel and his ally Judah and Edom that they will be victorious against the Moabites. And it was working. Everything was going according to plan. Until Misha, king of the Moabites, invokes his god Chemosh. The Moabite king, no doubt, is an adept, meaning someone who is has knowledge of spiritual things. He realized he must appeal to his God, a Bene Elohim ruler, to aid him, or all will be lost. That is what is depicted in the human sacrifice of his son. And it worked, folks. These things work. Not advocating it, but it is very real. His God answered. Chemosh answered and entered the war. Yahweh immediately broke off the battle, and the war disbanded. Israel's army abandoned the war and spoils of war. Something very serious has to happen for soldiers, battle-hardened soldiers, to abandon victory. And Moab was saved by Chemosh. So when the word, remember that word, as he was looking up the word indignation. He's not wrong. The word indignation means outrage. It means fury, rage. But who is the one exhibiting the rage and fury? Chemosh was. That's what he got wrong. He thought that the outrage was Israel was so outraged and disgusted by the human sacrifice that they left. No. The outrage, fury, rage, the scripture directly said that it was directed against Israel. Therefore, the rage, the fury was coming from Chemosh, the god of the Moabites. That's what he got wrong. Because that word, indignation, was literally put in there to conceal a plain biblical textual problem. The fact that another deity, Chemosh, prevailed over Yahweh in battle and forced a retreat. That's what had to be concealed or hidden, because it sounds like an abomination that these so-called gods or idol, nothing real, can prevail over Yahweh. So the god Chemosh was furious and outraged that his territory was violated, thus prompted the retreat as Chemosh directly enters the battle. The implication is troubling, folks, because if Yahweh is all powerful, why retreat at all? Particularly, why retreat at a time when Israel is at the verge of victory? Unless Chemosh rage and fury would have destroyed them. We will dive deep into this topic at another lecture, but the main point here is the word indignation is used as a classic textual concealment or cover-up of the real truth. Imagine instead of using the loaded term great indignation. The text reads instead, Chemosh struck terror upon Israel, or Chemosh, a foreign god, intervened and drove Israel back. This is the dangerous implication that must be concealed and hidden. But at Twat, the way of truth, we reveal the truth. We don't shy away from the truth. At Twat, the truth is all we care about. And this story, 2 Kings chapter 3, 27, is also shown through archaeology. Archaeological evidence confirms this biblical story. So this is a true story, a real event. The Misha stele, that is what you're looking here at the picture. The Misha stele. Misha stele. It was discovered in 1868 at Dibon in Jordan, an ancient tablet dates back to 850 BCE. It was written by Misha himself, king of Moab, which is, as I said, Moab is modern day Jordan. You will find this stone, this stele, at the museum, the Louvre Museum in Paris. It contains the longest known inscription in original Moabite language, recounting King Misha's victories over Israel, attributing victory to, and this is important, Misha, King Misha, attributes his victory over Israel to intervention and command of Chemosh, his God, who is a Bene Elohim rival of Yahweh. Let me say that again. Chemosh celebrated his victories over Israel on this stele. He documented his victories over Israel on this stele, literally attributing his victories to the intervention of his God, Chemosh. So, very important aspect of this story, which is still present in modern times. The true source of many of humanity's conflicts, such as wars, genocide, famine, is from non-human intelligences, entities, or beings. The hidden hand, the governors of creation, the administrators. Apostle Paul called them principalities, powers, and rulers. They are not some ghost ethereal figures, but rather they are very real. They are present and in control of humanity's affairs. Questions, comments, send to the way of truth .twat@gmail.com. We love to hear from you. Thank you for tuning in. The Way of Truth.
The way of truth has come, breathing through our trembling hearts. The way of truth has come. The way of truth, a guiding star, a light that breaks the darkest night. Piano under folded hands, old wounds waking, eyes still red from years of doubt, but something's changing. The way of truth. has come. Soft as mercy on the floor, we almost miss it. Name it hope or holy fire, we just listen. Every secret, every scar turns toward it. Shadows gather, then dissolve. We are witness. Lead us through the turning years, through the ruins, through our fears. Teach our restless hearts to see hidden paths to clarity. Lift our faces to the sky. Let the long lost answers rise. In that quiet burning dawn, we remember who we are. The way of truth has come. The way of truth has come. A guiding star through darkest night. The way of truth.